Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about crime rates or crimes perpetrated or committed by third world immigrants coming to the West. Now, the mass migration thing that the globalists are administering and organising and providing the infrastructure for, they're moving the surplus populations of the world, which are, say from Africa and parts of Asia, India, Pakistan, they're moving the surplus populations of the world into the West. And there's a large number of Muslims in that population, as we know. Muslims, to give you an idea, in Europe, the average births per woman is 1.5. Whereas in a lot of parts, the Islamic parts of the world, the average births per woman is 8. So just simple mathematics will tell you how that's going to play out over time. So the globalists are committed to moving the surplus populations that are typically illiterate peasants living in mud huts, living hand to mouth on bullshit, subsistence farms, to move them to the West. Where these illiterate peasants who have no skills, have never had a job, are being moved into the advanced Western economies. How anyone could imagine that's going to end well is quite beyond me, but that's what they're doing. Now, when we look at crime rates, this is something that the media tries very hard to obscure and simply refuses to report on when you think it should be a headline, constant headlines. But if we look at, say, Western Europe as a case in point, and not dividing people by whether they're Muslim or not, but just looking at the foreign-born people in Western Europe, they commit 48% of all serious crimes. Now, on average, they're making up 11% of the population, or 12% in some cases, but they're supposedly between 11 and 12% of the population. I don't know whether students are included in that, so I suppose the number's a little bit fuzzy, but they supposedly 11 or 12% of the population, this is the foreign-born migrants, who pretty much all come from third world countries, and they commit 48% of the serious crimes. When I say serious crimes, like armed robbery, murder, violent rape, and so on. Now, you struggle to hear about it when there are that many. For example, there, looking at one country here, there were 71 violent rapes, and 55% of those were committed by foreign-born people. Now, in the second tranche, they say, well, locally born people committed the rest, and the assumption, not stated, but the assumption you'd make from the way the article's written, or articles plural, is that the rest of the people must have, this is in Western Europe, the rest of the people did it must have been white. So you've got 89% of the population committed, 44, 45% of the violent rapes, for example. But that's not really accurate, because the next tranche of violent rapists are the children of migrants. So the first generation first generation who are Western born from these people who arrive from third world countries, that's the next biggest category of violent rapists, is the children or the offspring of the migrants. You've got a case where somebody from Pakistan, and there's a hanging out with another bunch of Pakistanis, and they was only like 15, 16 years old. They're not like that. And they gang raped a white girl. Now, they were all out night clubbing. They're all unemployed or at school. How they got the money to go night clubbing at these expensive nightclubs is quite beyond me. And they raped this 15-year-old white girl, what she was doing out at 2:00 in the morning on a Friday, and where she would have got the money to go night clubbing, an expensive nightclub, is equally beyond me. But nonetheless, they violently pack raped this 15-year-old schoolgirl. Now, to call her a schoolgirl when she's out night clubbing, an expensive nightclub, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. She fancies herself as a grown-up woman doing the, clubbing at the big name clubs. So to sort of write her, oh, she's just a little schoolgirl. That probably wouldn't be fitting. But nonetheless, it's a violent pack rape. Let's call it what it is. So when you add those two categories together, then you're looking at just on 80% of the violent rapes are committed by these third world migrants or their offspring, the first generation of Western born. So you've got really quite a small proportion of, so 20% of the violent rapes are committed by, or supposed violent rapes. Then they start playing around with the numbers, and then they expand the number of rapes to include technical rapes, which is overwhelmingly a white thing. So as we see in Australia, you look at the rape cases clogging the courts in Australia, they're not the violent rapes, they're technical, very technical arguments over, did she have too much to drink? Did she take a party drug? And if she had too much to drink, was it how much over the limit? So anything above 2 glasses of wine means that she can no longer give legal consent to sexual. Even if she gave the consent, it's no longer legal. So because the consent is now, even though given, was no longer legal, and there was the intention of getting it off beforehand, before that threshold, that doesn't matter. It's now rape. Very technical interpretation of what rape is, but nonetheless, it's now rape. So this is very much an issue of violent rape is, this could be really any violent crime. Stealing cars while you're holding a gun to someone's head. It could be anything in that category. Is overwhelmingly committed by these third world migrants, and then the next category, their children. Now, if you then look at where is the Department of Prosecutions, where does their interest lie, and where does the media's interest lie? Because if a man does it, a white man does, straight white man does it, it's national and international headlines. We had a recent case in Australia where a youngish straight white guy is involved, headlines. Wall-to-wall fucking headlines, but over that same period of time, there were many much more serious, violent knife gun type stuff, violent rapes committed by non-straight white men, minority groups. Not even a murmur. Maybe a mention in a local newspaper, maybe it's a column, maybe a mention deep down somewhere on the online. No fucking headlines at all. The straight white guy, fucking the media won't stop. They won't leave it alone. And the eagerness with which the Department of Prosecutions pursues straight white men, the way they leak to the media, once they decide that they're going to go after the straight white guy, then it's leaked to the media that it's happening. There's and again, hysterical media coverage. But if it's the black guy or the brown guy, no interest, unless it's something hugely sensational. For example, the pack rape thing, that did get some head, but not many, nowhere near as many headlines as the straight. Now this straight white guy is accused of technical rape. Did the girl have just that little bit too much to drink, which means her consent isn't legal anymore? That's all it was. There's no disputing that there was that she had intended to get horizontally. No disputing any of that. The only point of contention is, did she just have that little bit too much to drink? In which case, it technically now classified as rape. So just looking at the stats here, the amount of crime committed by the mass migration thing, the globalist orchestrated mass migration, the amount of crimes committed there is off the charts. But instead of cracking down on these people, deporting them, punishing them, not that they aren't punished, they are, but instead of cracking down on them and saying, okay, you're deported and your family, you're out of here, buster. Instead of doing that, what we've got now is developed a multi-tier level of policing where only straight white males are being held accountable, fully accountable under the law. And depending on your victim, ideological victim points, then your responsibility or your requirement to adhere to the law or obey the laws is significantly reduced. So say, in the case of this, the recent drama in the Middle East, if a certain group wants to protest illegally, they've got no permit, close the city streets down and all this, then the police do nothing. But if another group wants to protest or do it, even if they've legally got a permit, the police will aggressively shut them down. Hit them over the head with truncheons, fire rubber bullets at them, and so on. So these multi-levels of policing is also reflecting in the sort of cases that departments of prosecutions and state attorney generals and public prosecutors and so on will go chasing. They'll aggressively go chasing after the straight white male, but will be much less likely, much less inclined to go chasing after other groups, even though that the straight white male has committed, in the case of this rape, a very technical interpretation of rape. Did she have half a glass of wine too much? Whereas the violent, knife and gun type violent rapist, because he's black and illiterate peasant, we don't have to worry about him so much. And so the whole concept of justice has become ideological, if anything, just to fit in and to fit around and to make somehow more acceptable or unnoticeable the many crimes committed by these third world peasants that are being brought into the West. Now, if you look at those countries where these people are coming from, the rule of law and due legal process, low levels of social trust, tribal groups, cronyism, nepotism, all this sort of thing, no one has any faith in the law or the judicial procedures and so on. All the authority is in the village elders and the family and the tribe. So once these people leave those third world countries, then they're leaving behind all the restraints that would have existed and in the ways they existed through the family and the tribal elder type stuff. They've lost those, and they're coming to a place in the first world where in relation to what they had in the third world shithole they came from, where there is so much. There is just like a dazzling array of everything, every consumer item that they dreamed of or imagined they would one day own, that they'll have access to, they now see in the West. So, and they come with the tribal village view of communal ownership. So you have so much, why won't you share it with me? If you won't share it with me, then I'll have to take it. And what's wrong with that? So the very basis for crime to be committed, not just property crime, but other things, is if I want that hot blonde chick and I want to fuck her, and if she doesn't agree, well, who cares? So these types of things are being imported en masse. No wonder crime is going through the roof. And because of the ideological nature behind the mass movement of people, no wonder we're splitting off into multiple tiers of policing. Because ideologically, that is the inevitable outcome of where we're going. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.